video. The Virago is still in pieces, and unfortunately this video isn't about it just yet. I kind of like where I left it since the last video I made about it. But basically I've been working on making a workbench, some shelves, just to clean up my garage. And also I've been kind of riding the XSR, and by now it's time to change the rear tire. The carcass is showing right here. And so I picked up another Q3 Plus. It was originally recommended to me by the person at Cycle Gear. He said if you like to go to the twisties and kind of push the bike, this is a pretty good tire. And it lasted me about 6,000 miles, so that's pretty good. I really like this tire. It feels really good in the corners, and even compared to the stock tire, I feel like I have to ride out the clutch less, leaving from stock, basically, so I really like it. But honestly, in the rain, it doesn't feel that great. There are better tires for the rain. I had the traction control go off. I was just kind of testing it, and because I felt like the Pilot Road Force I had on the R1, which has more power to that bike. I always had confidence riding in the rain with that tire, like light rain. But this one, I don't feel too confident riding in sprinkling weather either. But in dry weather, it's really good in the twisties. And also, if you're kind of doing just more touring, high miles on the highway, there are better options too. But overall, for more sport riding, this is a really good tire. I recommend it. So right now, I'll basically show you how to remove the rear wheel to change the tire. So here's one shelf I made. All the Virago parts are on it. And here's the engine. And here's my own workbench I designed with the drawer. So it's still in pieces, but hopefully soon, okay? So first of all, of course, put the bike on the rear stand. The bikes don't come with this, the rear spools, so you have to pick these up at a shop or order online. These are 6mm, I believe. I kind of forgot. It looks kind of thin, the threads, but it's working fine so far. Okay, so it's a 27mm socket you need. Got a breaker bar. The nut is out. There is a washer. And then I'll just pull out this spacer bracket also, so it doesn't just drop. And then I'll go on the other side to remove the axle. Okay. And then you want to put something maybe underneath that can help it to help you remove it, so the wheel doesn't just have to drop, or you don't have to mess with the wheel really. So I'll put this hammer on the other side and just push out the axle. Got the axle out with the spacer, so just put it away. More safe, it won't get dirty. And then for the chain, kind of push the wheel in and pick out the chain, move it to the side. Move down gently. Okay, so now the axle is out, the chain is out the way. So I'm gonna actually lift up the tire to remove the hammer that's holding up the wheel. Just let it kind of come down. So I undid two clips holding the brake line, this one and this one. It's simple to do with a pick or maybe a flathead screwdriver. So basically now it's easier to mess with the caliper without putting stress on the lines. So I'm gonna pull the tire back, or kind of pull the caliper out, and you see here's the groove on the caliper bracket. I basically undid the clips holding the brake line, making it easier to mess with the caliper and bracket. So I basically pulled it back and slid it out. And you can just grab a cloth, old t-shirt, kind of just rest this on. And then the tire is, or the rear wheel is free. Like I said, there's a groove in the brake caliper bracket on the other side. It slides along this notch. I undid the clips, making it a little easier to pull this, slide this out. Okay, so it's the next day. I'm gonna show you how to put the wheel back on right now. I actually went to Cycle Gear the same day I took it off, and they actually called me back less than an hour later saying the wheel was ready, so shout out to them for working fast. They always give me good service every time I go, so I always recommend them. But basically, before putting the wheel back on, I'll show you how to, I always like to clean the spacers and re-grease it, and also grease the axle before putting it back on. So I'll show you how to do that right now. So on the sprocket side, there's this bigger spacer. Just take it out, clean it up. And then clean the inside of this too. Okay, then I like to apply some white lithium grease inside this rubber seal where the spacer goes inside. Since you already greased the inside of that rubber seal, you can just apply a light coat on the outside. But kind of more where it seats into the rubber seal, because outside it's just exposed. You don't really need to cover that. And then you might have some excess, just a little bit. You can wipe it off. And then I'll flip the wheel over. Basically same thing. Okay. Because there's actually grooves in the rubber seal I'm letting the grease go into. So with the axle, just wipe off all the grease that was on there before. And I don't like to put grease on the threads because I change the tire out every 6,000, 10,000 miles. Just apply some, and then just rub it in. Nothing at the bottom, just gonna roll it in. But I'll grab the brake caliper, put it inside the rim, and then slide the brake pads over the brake disc. Push the wheel in more with the caliper, making sure that the bracket slides into that notch. On the other side, put the chain on, and then you can either use one hand to lift the wheel and then slide the axle through, or grab whatever you use to kind of lift up the wheel. And the wheel and just kick it under. And then at that point, you don't have to do two things at once. Slide the axle through. Just had to lift up the wheel just a tad because the hammer wasn't enough height. And then your threads might have caught some grease. So just wipe it off the threads. Put back the spacer bracket. And make sure you have it on the other side on the axle. Washer. The nut. Okay, so we'll go ahead and tighten this nut down. And as you tighten it down, I like to keep a hand just pushed against the wheel, because if you have the correct settings on these spacers, then you want to push it all the way in so that the wheel doesn't get tightened, offset, or crooked. And then if you took out the clips, you want to clip the brake lines back. After taking out the rear wheel, you might have pushed the brake piston in a little bit. So you want to go ahead and pump the rear brake so it sets the brake pads. Okay, so that's that for this video. I basically just showed you how to take out the rear wheel and put it back on. And shout out again to Cycle Gear for getting it back to me so fast. And I haven't changed the brake fluid in a while, so I'll probably show you how to do that in the next video. And I'll make a GoPro video about how the tire feels. It's best to maybe run it in like 100 miles before getting more aggressive on it. But yeah, that's that. And thanks again for watching. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comments.